vrShtih samudreShu, thrptheShu Bhojanam, dhanam, DhanaDyeShu, dipo, divaa cha. This Subhashitha is also taken from the Chanakya Neeti, chapter 5. What does this mean, Amma?
The word meaning vrTha, wasted, vrShtih, rains, samudreShu, on the ocean. vrTha, wasted, thrptheShu, on a satiated person, Bhojanam, meals or food. vrTha, wasted, dhanam, offering or gift, DhanaDyeShu, on a wealthy person. vrTha, wasted, deepo, light, divaa, in daylight. The underlying thread here is appropriateness. Everything has to be done appropriately. Rains on the ocean are more or less wasted. We would like to have rains on arid lands, arable lands, and catchment areas. vrTha, thrptheShu, Bhojanam. For a person fully satiated, if you give more food, it is a waste. Food may better be given to people who need, hungry people. vrTha, dhanam, DhanaDyeShu. For a person who is already wealthy and possessing a lot of things, if you give him gifts and offerings, it's a waste. You better give them to people who really need it. It will be more appreciated. The analogy given here is there is no necessity for light during daytime.
Today we have a wonderful guest with us. We have my cousin Archith joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this episode. It has been a very important exercise for me in the last few days because I was also introspecting about a lot of different things in life. And this just added fuel to that fire. vrTha, vrShtih, samudreShu, vrTha. The ocean is in a continuous process of gaining water as well as losing water in some way. It loses water by forming clouds, but it gains water again by making rain fall on itself. So is this process something that takes away water from the ocean? I don't think so. I'd just like to remember this one dialogue from the movie Sharabi, where Amitabh Bachchan has apparently given something very expensive to his girlfriend. But Pran, who plays the father, disapproves of the girl and he says that you have wasted my money on all of your exploits. And in the very inimitable style of Amitabh Bachchan, he says, Daddy, samandar mein se 2-4 lota pani agar nikala jaye, to samandar ko koi farak nahi padta. If you take out 2 or 3 buckets of water from the ocean, it does not cease to be the ocean. It does not make a difference. That hit deep for me. It was said in jest and it was performed by a person who's playing a drunk man. But the meaning is of a lot of importance. And if we can take something back from that, I think it means quite a lot.
You are just talking about the water cycle, Archith. Apparently, humans have pumped out so much of the groundwater that it's actually changed the Earth's tilt. From 1993 to 2010, the Earth's tilt has changed by 80 centimeters or 31.5 inches because humans have pumped out 2,150 gigatons of water from natural reservoirs in the Earth's crust.
That's a really fascinating point. If the simple act of pulling water out of the earth has been able to create such an impact on the whole planet, we can imagine the kind of damage that we're actually causing. For me, at least, it's a humbling experience to understand that every little thing that I do on this planet has an effect on how I'm going to leave it and how I might damage it. It's a lot more fragile than we think it is. So I think it's a good message for us to be careful over here as well.
Coming now to the second line. vrTha, thrptheShu, Bhojanam. Mahatma Gandhi said, there is food on this planet for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. We better be very alert about food wastage. Eat just what we need and not waste anything on the plate. This habit should be taught to the children from a very young age. Here I am reminded of a story. Ratan Tata and his colleagues once went to a restaurant in Germany. They ordered lavishly. At another table, there was a young couple sitting with just one plate of food each and a glass of wine. And these people were wondering how they could have a romantic time just with such limited food. At another table, there were a group of ladies who were having a nice time, but with sparse food on their plates. One of the ladies couldn't tolerate and came to this table and told these men, "Do not waste so much food, it belongs to our country." One member answered, "Why? We have paid for it, we are entitled to it." So this lady called the social security people. They came there, saw the food wastage, which was almost 1/3 of what they had ordered, and they fined them heftily. They said, "You might have paid for the food. The money is yours. The resource is ours." Ratan Tata said, "I was promptly put in my place." This shows the importance of not wasting food. I hope this culture comes into our country also.
Thanks, Malini. I had not heard this story before. I will add to that story with a personal example. And this is the example of my father. It's all in good faith that he will take this in the right stride. So my father is a person who basically loves deals. So if someone says that the original price of something is 100 rupees, but he is able to acquire 8 of them for 70 rupees each, he would rather acquire 8 for 70 than 1 for 100. If I were to look at it from his point of view, I would say, hey, I don't have to spend so much on 1 unit of an item, but I don't need 8 units. I just need 1 unit. And I'm okay paying 100 rupees for 1 unit of that item. Even if I am paying extra in the grand scheme of things, I am not creating wastage. I am not contributing to consumer culture. I am not contributing to excessiveness in any form. And I'm satisfied with that 1 unit that I get because that's all that I require at that particular point of time. But if I were to buy A, I would have to find other people to give it to, which is an effort again. I would probably not find other 8 people and would probably be left with a few, which will eventually go waste. Or I might just have excess of something that I really don't need, which again is a huge waste of not only the items purchased, but also my money, which is now depleted.
Archith, you were talking about having excess items and unwanted items. One of the ways you can make sure they get used is by making sure it reaches the hands of somebody who can actually use it. Donate it, gift it, however, give it to somebody who can actually use it. That brings us to the third section of the Subhashitha, vrTha dhanam DhanaDyeShu. Money can't buy happiness, they say. But we also know about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You do need a basic amount of money for you to have a good life. But beyond a certain point, and the tipping point varies for each person, money cannot be a motivator. So that's when the money is wasted on that person. If you want to motivate your employees, just increasing their salary beyond a certain point is not going to do you any good. You will want to look into other forms of rewards and recognition where you are meeting their higher needs in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's when you are going to get their best output or they are the happiest at work.
I am also now relating to the third sentence in the Subhashitha, vrTha dhanam DhanaDyeShu. I'm actually speaking the reverse of this. I'm speaking about a virtue called asteya. The single word meaning for this is non-stealthiness. What does it mean? You do not accept anything which you think rightfully does not belong to you. Here I would relate the story of Sri DVG, one of our most respected persons. He was extremely intelligent, but he was very poor. He was a friend of our Sir M. Vishveshwaraya. And Vishveshwaraya had very high connections with the Mysore Maharajas. So he wanted to help DVG. So he would often give some letters and things of the royal requirements for DVG to translate, reinterpret, etc. And for these, he would always get a good payment from the Mysore Maharaja and give the check to DVG. So DVG humbly accepted all these checks. But after DVG's death, they found a trunk full of these checks, not cashed at all. In terms of our current day currencies, it would run into crores. Why did DVG do this? He always thought he was helping a friend and didn't look at it as work. So he never accepted the payments. This is Asteya at its very best.
That's an interesting story, Malini. I would also like to share another story or an excerpt from the Mahabharata. Sudama, that is Krishna's friend who grew up along with him, gets to know that Krishna has become a god king and is being anointed. He's also having a procession in his kingdom, and there are people from all corners of the earth coming to see him and visit him. Sudama finds it his duty as a friend to go and wish him well as well. Sudama, due to his poverty, is not able to give a lot to Krishna, and he is able to only carry a handful of beaten rice or avlaki. Lo and behold, Krishna notices that, and he doesn't make a big scene of it, but instead says that this is the greatest gift that someone could have given me. Because despite having nothing at all, you have still made the effort come all the way and give me something of value. Now, a gift of wealth may not be a requirement or a need for many, but it may symbolize a bond of trust. This again can be related to our personal lives. When we go to places or parties, or when people come and visit us, I think the most important act that a person can do is to show up, because that is a symbol of their trust in you, your trust in them, having trust in that particular relationship, which is a lot more than words can say. And it can definitely be an invaluable bond that you share with that person, which cannot be materialized in any way, which cannot be gift wrapped in any form, and which cannot be given any sort of monetary value to. That is a very important trait that we can take from this particular Subhashitha. While the wealthy may have all that they want and all that they need and much more than all of that, sometimes even showing up with a rose or showing up in person to give your time can be the greatest gift ever.
This Subhashitha teaches us that everything has to be in moderation, has to be done in the right context and at the right time. Just taking the example of drinking too much water, that is not good for you. Binging on too much food, that isn't good for you either. Trying to impress someone who is well off by giving them expensive gifts and trying to influence them to like you, not going to be worth it in the long run either. As wasteful as leaving the lights on in your room when your room is already flooded with daylight. All of these drains you. Overdoing is just overkill. The same concept is also valid if you look at the way people invest in markets. People try to time the markets. They try to invest when they realize there is a bull run going, and they pull out when the market is melting down. This is not the right time or the right context for this. If you're doing something like this, then you're not going to be making any money. Similarly, the way people give out donations to charity, there are certain causes which attract a lot of funds. They attract so much funds that they actually don't need that much funds if they were being used efficiently. India, of course, has the maximum number of NGOs in the world. And if all the money that was given into NGOs were actually being used for proper welfare, then we probably wouldn't have hunger in India. We probably would have solved Indian hunger at least. But the point is that money is getting channeled into certain causes while other causes are lacking funds. So there is an unequal distribution. Our resource utilization is not appropriate. We may not have the data to make this appropriate, but at least let's try to make it as equitable as possible.
vrTha, dipo, divaa, apicha. We don't really need a light to be burning in our house during daytime. At the same time, the reason why a lamp burns in a temple, or the reason why you might want to do something sometimes, may not really be because of common sense. It may be symbolic. The reason why a lamp burns in a temple is not to provide light to the sanctum sanctorum or to the people within the temple. It is a symbol of hope. It means different things to different people. It removes the darkness of the mind is an important point that Madhavi was also making. Using light as a means of removing darkness from within, I think, is a concept that a lot of us talk about, a lot of politicians again talk about, removing darkness from our society, removing darkness within yourselves, but do they really understand it at all? Food for thought.
They say tiny drops make the mighty ocean. When you are that tiny drop and you're faced with the mighty ocean, you may think that your efforts are insignificant. But over time, maybe you put in so much work that it amounts to a lot. Maybe you put in work and you attract other like-minded people, and together all of you create something big. So do not feel daunted just by the size of your challenge. In Kannada, we always say Suryange torcha. Are you going to shine a torch to the sun? Meaning that your actions are stupid or insignificant. And that's usually said in a negative and a discouraging way. If each one of us stopped trying to do things just because there are others who do it better and have a greater impact than us, then where would the world be? I think it would just go to the dogs. This is another way I would look at this as a form of motivation. Another way of looking at this Subhashitha is also that even when you're faced with a mighty ocean, if you are a thirsty person, this body of water is useless to you because it is salty water, and salty water is not going to quench your thirst. For a person who is needy, any item will not fill that need. The quality of the item also matters. The situation has to be appropriate for a person to be satisfied. After a hearty meal, you would say that nothing is appreciated. But what if you are offered your favorite sweet or maybe a hot cup of coffee? I would love that. That's the best way to end my meal. So that's it for today. What did you guys think? Share it with us. See you in the next episode.